Today I'll share with you some ways to bring ethical reflection into the process of creating new technologies. To me, ethical reflection comes up when I confront situations that pull me in different directions, where I don't know what to choose, or sometimes where I think I know exactly what to choose and then everything falls apart. How could I uncover the situations that require ethical reflection before they actually happen? And why should anyone do that at all? Let's take that first. You may have seen some headlines in the past few years to the tune of how technological devices impact our lives in unexpected ways. Delightful technologies like a stuffed animal that you can use to send your kids messages turns into an insecure database and private messages being held for ransom. A website to share and connect with your friends turns into a trove of personal data used to manipulate voters. Recognizing faces to prevent crime turns into a facial recognition system that is used to track and control ethnic minorities. The list goes on. In a recent research project, we tried to understand how to bring ethical reflection into that process of creating new technologies. We were trying to figure out how to bring ethics up earlier, as opposed to only in the aftermath of these embarrassing, shocking, horrible headlines. As something we heard was that ethics comes up when things go down. Things in this case can mean technological devices, the networks and the people and the places to which they are connected. What if we could anticipate those things going down and fast forward to the scene that brings ethics up? If we could uncover and express those scenes, we could rehearse and prepare for how we would handle the challenges we might face. And maybe when we step back to our present-day concerns, we could make different choices, avert some possible scenarios, and steer towards others. But in order to get there, we have to exit from our everyday focus and zoom in and out, fast forward, in short, shift our perspective. And I think these lenses might help us. Ethical theories inspire those lenses, and I'll call them out as we go. Let's do it. Let's use those lenses and look at a new technological device through them, see what scenarios that brings up. I hope that how I will see this is different from how you might see the product and the scenarios, because that is the power of diverse perspectives and the discussions that we can have with them. So perhaps you'll jot down your reflections and share them with me later, or those around you now. So what are we going to work with today? We are all going to work on the Smart Shoe. And it's a new product. It's going to measure and log runs, walks, any kind of movement. We just joined the team working on it, and it's not yet launched. Let's take a look at the thing we're building. We don't yet know exactly what its form is, so for now, this is our representation that we'll use, and we'll follow it through the lenses. Our first lens is that of zooming in. So we want to really try to get to know the product, what is inside it, who uses it. We know it has a Bluetooth device, it has a database that it's connected to, it also has an accelerometer inside of it, and there's an app that people can use to get the data out of it. It lives on people's feet and in their houses and anywhere else they might go. The app allows people to analyze their patterns, set goals, and even compare their routes to others. And we also have a smart coach who can help people improve their running style. So now we can see a bit of a fuller picture about this Smart Shoe. Second lens. We are looking at this thing, again, this smart shoe that we're building, but here we're going to try to sharpen the lens and think about what good we are doing with this thing. So we already know that it's supposed to help people to run faster and better. But now that I'm joining the product team, I would also like to bring a couple other ideas in. So I'm going to bring in well-being, the idea that I want to support people's physical and mental well-being. And I'm also going to bring in the value of autonomy. So the idea that no matter what, the person who owns this shoe can make their own choices without being influenced or forced by the technology inside of it. And this lens, this focus on values, is rooted in the idea of virtue ethics, where we try to always strive to uphold the values that we care about in the things that we're working on, in the choices that we make in our lives. On first glance, it looks like the smart shoe aligns fine with those values. People can choose where they want to go. They can set goals, which seems good for mental well-being, I heard, at least. But with our next lens, we're going to zoom out and look at time. So over time, what could happen if somebody lives with this thing? What are the impacts of the thing on their life? So what if in a few days, the person who owns this shoe, she's been running with it plenty, and she starts to feel a bit down. And she realizes that part of that is because she never reaches her goals. And there's this coach in her ear who's just yelling at her every day, trying to motivate her. But it doesn't work. She just feels more and more down. How am I doing with that value of well-being right now? Or maybe another day she wakes up and she decides, you know what, enough. I just want to go for a run and enjoy this sport. But the thing is tracking her and analyzing her and recording her run, her patterns and everything. It's kind of in her mind. She can't just detach from it. So how am I doing with this autonomy value now? Can she use the shoe without being judged by the technology inside of it? So should I just put my big list of tasks aside and focus on trying to bring these values in? Maybe I should make it so that you can kind of insert the sensors and take them out when you want to take a break from being judged. Or maybe I should work on this coaching style and think about how different types of people might want to be motivated in different ways. But on the other hand, I have this big list, right? I have a lot to do. But how am I doing with my North Stars and those values? And I feel that they're starting to drift away. Well, our next lens, scale. So here we envision a future where lots and lots of people have our smart shoe. So loads of people in Denmark here are running around with our shoe on. And actually a lot of people even on the other side of the world are also using the shoe. And when I think about the other side of the world, I think about somewhere warm, really, really warm and sunny. So how would the shoe be in that warm, sunny place? Well, okay, so the person over there, maybe he's going for runs and enjoying running in the sun and all this and the smartness, it's all good. And he takes breaks every 10 minutes because it's hot. And he needs to drink some water, hydrate a bit, cool down. And he also carries water with him even. So his stats are being compared to the global average, and it doesn't look so good. And when we look into things on our end, we realize that over here in lovely, brisk Denmark, people are running really fast to try to stay warm. And our context is being directly compared to his context. So how are we doing here? Feels like the consequences to some extent of this comparison is not this is not feeling so good. It's not working so well. So should we try to push for more data collection in his area and try to get a better local average, or how do we deal with this? All right, next sentence. Let's look at that future, right? So already we're starting to think about different futures where, now our product is out there, right? Certainly not the present day. We're not going to look very far in the future, just very, very near future. But even already there, we need to start to take into account the other things that might be happening. So at that point, very near future, I can tell you probably, and unfortunately, there will continue to be a climate crisis. And it's also quite likely that everybody is still working from home, or many, many, many people. And so there's been a kind of skyrocketing of domestic energy consumption. And there's a big push to try to, anybody who's working on a product that has to do with people's homes and their lives needs to try to promote this kind of reducing the domestic energy consumption. And our smart shoe is certainly living in people's homes. So we have to think about it. And luckily, lately, just to add one more variable here, there's been a big step forward in terms of harvesting kinetic energy. So, every movement that you take is actually now turning into energy that can be stored and then used to do something like charge your phone or other devices. So that's super exciting for us. So it's cheaper, it's easier to do, more accessible. And we've decided we're going to shift and have this kind of green citizen shoe. So it's not just a smart shoe, it's now the green shoe. And we're really proud of that idea and everything. But on the other side, if we add these kind of bits of computing in and so on, that means that we need to harvest some rare earth minerals. And after the shoe is used, it's going to contribute to electronic waste. So this green shoe is also having some failings if we see it as part of a bigger global picture of greenness. All right, so here we're starting to bring in a little bit of care ethics, where we see the shoe as connected not just to the people that use it, but also potentially to the earth that those people are part of, right? All right. So through all of these stories, what I've been trying to do is to bring up these kind of challenges and the experiences of those challenges. And you may have heard of different ethics that came up throughout those stories. So we talked about consequentialism a bit as we thought about consequences and tried to weigh them. We thought about virtue ethics, especially, remember, with that first story, and we really wanted to promote mental well-being, but the person was not feeling so good. And in this last story, we brought up care ethics and the idea that a shoe is connected not just to an app, but to much, much more. So the stories and the scenarios that we've talked through, they bring up conflicts. But if we could actually envision them more richly, perhaps that would bring the discussion even more to life. So I wanted to share with you a student project lately from some students of mine who thought about that same smart shoe kind of scenario. And in this case, the smart shoe is, yes, part of a kind of green citizen program, even promoted by the Queen, if you can see. And the idea is that the more you use the shoe, the more points you get. And those points also go towards discounts at the grocery store and all sorts of other kinds of benefits. So just seeing the shoe in the context of a city or in our leadership's hands maybe helps you to bring the whole story to life in your head. And we can also use these lenses and this way of working to think about products, different products, so not just shoes, but actually a smart lock. And in this case, the students that I was working with, they thought about a future where a smart lock is used to regulate lockdowns. So what you see is the smart lock opening and closing in accordance with the national lockdown. And you can also use these lenses for completely other contexts, like a museum. So here, my collaborator, Monica Stayfried, and I thought about a future where there's a new software that a museum uses to try to collect and organize all of the different art pieces that it has. And in that future, the leadership is really trying to uphold the value of sustainability, reduce their energy consumption, and they even try to almost program or train the software to help them be more sustainable in their collection. And what this results in is that the software learns that actually many of these sculptures and paintings and archives are using a lot of energy in order to preserve them. And it starts to delete them. So none of these scenarios or questions were the ethical future, but they depict and sometimes foresee the challenges that we may face in multiple possible futures. And in doing so, they give us signs for what we could start to do now. And we ran through a lot. I hope that you will take one, if not several lenses into your next decisions and ask questions that slow you down and trust that by doing so, you are on your way to designing an ethical future. Thank you.